Hello, everyone. Sorry we're running late, but we made it. We had a computer problem. Well, we could have done it this way we're doing it, but it's supposed to work a different way, and we had a different monitor. I'm redoing this office down here. This is one set. There's another set, and we'll probably have another set over here. So we're moving all that things around, and so we had a new monitor here that this should have worked, and out of my computer, and it just wouldn't budge. And we know how we've done this 100 times, but it did, that made us lose some time. So now Zion and I, we just not people that give up. We can do this, but then we gave up. So, so anyway, I'm glad you're making it. Give a second for everybody to come on and see that we're on. Hi, Jeremiah. We're working on Jeremiah, working on you coming here. Exciting. Looking at what you can do and everything. We'll talk more about that. And we're going to be talking about revival training, or training for revival, which is a subject that most people don't even know you do train for it. And we'll discuss that in a minute. But anyway, we're in our country. It's interesting, isn't it, how revival rises and falls in that a college had, I think it was a 72 hour. I saw a 90 some hour one on some campus, and it's all good. But what do you do? What happens after that? It should change their lives. And they say, well, this is how I want to live now. And I don't know I'm not there, so I can't say, but 92 or 72, that's not enough. Those hours are not enough. We need days and weeks going into years where it changes. Our culture starts thinking differently. And maybe that's what we're seeing, though, on the college campuses, the culture. When I was in high school, grade school, high school, college campuses were getting involved in a culture change. Mainly it was, hi, Nathan, the Vietnam War was becoming more and more unpopular. So college campuses were rioting and holding things. It was really a sad time, not a good time, because people were getting killed and shot and beat. I was I only can remember one, I think more than one, but one demonstration where the National Guard came. And I didn't really have a heart for it. I mean, not that part, but I just didn't have a heart that it's right to go totally against authority when, the guys I knew that were in Vietnam fighting, they didn't want to be there either, but there they are doing their best, hopefully. And it bothered me a little bit, but I was involved in that. But a culture shift came. All of a sudden we had music differently. Music shifted from just in a very short time. There was obviously the rock and roll years of the 50s and Elvis Presley and all that. And that was starting it, I think, but it causes a, collision. Churches were against Elvis and preachers were against him and stuff like that. So maybe it was a sign of a little bit, but mostly they just talked about a generation gap, and it did not become a culture gap, and then culture change. And then, hi, Paula, then we start seeing culture changes and thought patterns and how you're supposed to think, dress, address people. Kind of today, a little bit like today, one of the biggest changes was music and television. And television started picking up different shows that hit just topics that we weren't wrong. I mean, everybody talked about them, but an agenda with a maybe it was left agenda, probably with an agenda. Television shows were not entertainment anymore. They were becoming shows with an agenda, or a lot of them were. And so they started promoting agendas, and pretty soon a culture shift started. And then the mentality of the 70s, which was a lot of college groups and my age and everything too, started growing up, and we had, we're all going to love and we're going to get along and give peace a chance, and love is all you need, and all these things are happening. And then they grew up with that mentality in there. Many of those 70s kids are in government now, and in politics, government, control of cities, different things like that. And they didn't follow through. Now they become rigid people that don't want to talk things over. And at least then it was like it used to be like, well, we should give kind of everybody's space, and whatever you think, whatever, whatever feels right to you, do it. Hi, Judah. And that may not work either. Whatever feels right, do it. That doesn't work. And you remember this, Paula, remember it, I know, and some of you others maybe, where we used to say, well, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, it doesn't matter if we didn't ever consider it sin or wrong or bad. It was only bad if it hurt somebody, as long as it didn't hurt anybody else. Well, that was a fallacy, because then as we went on and got older and things changed, and people, hi, Mark and Kenda today. Good to see you guys, and or have you guys here. And we're talking about culture shift in the 70s, which started in the 60s, and TV began to have an agenda, and then music began to have an agenda. Not all music, not all TV, but it was there, and it worked until now. Those people have grown up, and their agenda now has not followed through, where everybody has a right to their own opinion. Boy, that was strong back then, and I was just saying, Kenda, as you guys came on and Mark came on, I was just saying, and then we had, yeah, right. I see Paula saying, if it feels good, do it. And then and then we can add, right, Paula, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. Well, that was impossible. You can't do what feels good to you all through life and it doesn't hurt other people. And it did. And so it showed up in relationships and divorce and drugs and just everything that now has probably been passed on to another generation. But what I'm trying to say is, hi, Thomas. What I'm trying to say is, those people who are in that give peace a chance, whatever feels right, do it, everything we're talking about here, have grown up, and many of them with that attitude are now in control of cities and city governments, and just even local governments, in big cities, and over things, and then mayors and politics, all those things. And they're not following through. Now there is an agenda that is only one person's agenda, and we don't get to say anymore. We don't get to say anymore, well, everybody has a right to their own opinion, and respect that, and be able to disagree and yet understand that not everybody's going to agree. And so it's become very, very rigid and difficult. Well, that's where we are. So how are we going to change that? The hope we have, and the hope that I have, is I've seen more than once probably, but major then, when we saw music change, then all the things that happened then, is that there was a major culture shift, and it changed me. It changed my family's attitude. Everybody's, like, even in my older sister, she was a little bit 5 years older than me, and so she was in the previous generation, and so when it switched, even she was difficult, because she wasn't part of the hair and long hair and the Beatles and the drugs and all the stuff that overtook and became continually to be pushed. Even then, drugs and marijuana were, like you mentioned, on Saturday Night Live or other TV shows, All in the Family or whatever they were, and the audience would applaud. And it was illegal drugs. Culture shift. So what's our hope today then? If this is, hi, I said hi, Thomas. I hope you're having a good week. What's our hope here? If we see this strong group that is opinionated and not willing to negotiate, doesn't want to talk, and if you're not part of their group, they're going to try to shut you down, right? What's our hope? Well, first of all, we've got to analyze what's the problem. What is that? What is the problem? And the problem is not an opinion problem. The problem is not a political problem. It's not a political party problem, right? No. It is a heart problem. It is the way the heart is. Hardened heart, blinded to things, and hardened itself to, I don't care what other people want. I just want what I want. And so it's grown up now and exploded. So what's our only hope, in my opinion? Well, it's not going to help to legislate and say you can no longer, it's against the law to say this word or that, because it doesn't work. Yesterday I read the news story of you probably saw it, maybe you saw it, where a person, I don't know, put graffiti on a Catholic church and, I don't know, set fire or something. Well, normally that's a hate crime. And right now it looks like they're just going to let him go because certain people don't like churches. or religion. And so they're just going to let him go. But if it was flipped around the other way, it'd be in the news big time, a hate crime. And so it's so deep that you can't just start legislating and says it's against the law to say this, or it's against the law. Your screen went out here, there it went back. Mine did, but it's against the law. And now it's a hate crime. Well, yeah, but if there's prejudice in legal systems and judicial systems, then it doesn't apply to everybody. It's hate according to certain people's opinion, right? So we're in trouble. Yeah, we're in trouble. There's a shift going on that has opened us up to world powers, war being planned against us, financial difficulties, let's just say that. And so what do? Well, we only have one hope that I know of, and that is another culture shift. We have to have another culture shift. And a culture shift means the people change their minds, not government, not politics, whatever, but people see things differently. Now, whether it's right or wrong, we could go to a wrong culture shift, a bad one, which maybe is where we are now. Well, we are now. It's shifting. Our culture is shifting. And it's going a direction that I don't think majority want it to go, but minority are controlling, okay? And they've done a good job of controlling in a short amount of time, haven't they? So how are we going to do this? Well, everybody has the ability to be in a culture shift if you have the power to create a culture shift that is backed up by the power of God, because the power of God can touch the strangest, weirdest people, like some of us listening, right? And change our minds. It's a culture shift of the heart. It's a culture shift of the mind. And so when you get touched by the Spirit of God, you don't have to say, be a conservative. You don't have to say, I'm pro-marriage. All those things, because the mind gets changed and you get a value. You don't even have to preach the Bible, say, hey, you don't even have to say it's the Bible or whatever and argue Bible. It's just common humanity. And the Spirit of God begins to create in us humanity as God wanted it to be. There's some honesty, there's some love, there's some honesty, respect. And even if the people don't go to church, it's a creation of a culture shift that goes across the culture, and not here, not there, not one group, not another group, and the entire culture. So that's what is my prayer. And what I want to be involved in is helping to create a new, fresh culture shift that I think America is ready for. Unfortunately, like I said, it could be ready. It could go the other way because there's no other voice. And my thought is the lack of voice is the lack of the church. Everything that says a culture shift is happening in our country, except the church having its own culture shift to get back on the things that God always did. He always sent people to say, return to me, my people, and I will return to you. And that's a culture shift. Now, all of a sudden, God's on the scene. We couldn't find him before. He's helping us, and we want to help him. We want to be a part of his kingdom. It's a culture shift, but there's no voice. There's no voice. Where's the voice of the church? Where's the voice of the Spirit? Where's the voice of standing up and not bashing other people? You don't have to do that. It's not coming against anybody. It's being for God and inviting people, not to church, not inviting people to stand and read the 5 spiritual laws and say, there, you've prayed the prayer, now you're saved. That's not a culture shift, okay? Getting people saved, born again, especially if you do it on the premises, if you were to die today, you'll get to go to heaven. Well, that's a culture shift when you die, but it's not a culture shift while you're alive. And so, and so we need a culture shift for people who are going to live and not die and want to live right. And they don't know what, and today people are lost. They don't know how they feel. They're angry. People are angry, and it could all be rightly so. But how do you heal that? And you can't do it with legislation, obviously. And therapy is good. Talking it over with your friends or going to therapy, pay whatever to talk it over. All that's good, but it's not good enough because we have a part of us that's spiritually sick. We're spiritually sick in America, maybe the other parts of the world too. We're sick in our souls. And so we need healing inside, and there's no voice for that. And God's good at that. Nothing is too big for God, right? Unless you don't do it, right? Unless you don't do it. So I don't hear those voices. So that's what we need to do. I want to be a part of it, praying every single day, because I believe our country could fall into a powerful culture shift, and we could call it revival then. I like a new word. You can start using it if you want to. I am starting to use a different word because revival sometimes carries with it a connotation of, religion, or maybe they think of, who knows what people think of. And we don't want to think that, right? Anything right now. We want to be wide open. So I'm changing it sometimes to a new phrase that I really, really like, right? And to have a culture shift, we need a fresh, right? Not just revival. We need a renaissance, a fresh, new. We need a culture renaissance. And renaissance means revival, really. Everything's new, and you can look that word up. But the renaissance is not used today. And so when you say revival, and they say we need a revival, then people get things in their mind. But if you say we need a renaissance, what is that? A era where they did paintings and painting, but it was a shift. Paintings start writings that you're saying this is the Renaissance period because it was identifiable. So we need a renaissance in the spirit, a spiritual renaissance that means revival. But it's just a great, great phrase that we could coin, and which I'm trying to, and speaking to people across the country. So you pray and you pray and you pray for connections to people who will listen, because we can help cause this. It seems impossible in some ways, but if nobody else is saying it that I can find, then somebody needs to say it. Maybe it's not as hard as it sounds. Just start talking it and praying for it and supporting it. So you can always pray for more and more finances, the more you have to do these kinds of things, Here, yeah, Renaissance. Hi, Judah. Thanks, Judah. Incorporates a completely changed society, which is what we need. Yeah, cool, huh? Great word. And fresh. So anyway, this is where I am personally. I'd love to have you on board in your prayers for contacts, people that I can win to this, and I think I can. And and pray for, as we do that the finances come in to expand, to reach other people, to reach the church, the leadership. I saw an article yesterday in the middle of the night, probably, I won't say who it was, a very good one, prominent preacher. And he was asked about, attendance dropping off in churches today. And, he hit it, boy. He said, you know what the problem is? We have a leadership problem. And many of them are innocent. They're just doing what they know to do. They're doing the best they can, as they don't know what else to do. They've learned certain patterns. So somebody needs to teach them different. And we would love to do that, wouldn't we? Yeah. So today, though, I've gone longer on that part, and we got a late start, but I'm going to visit with you a little longer because I called it Training for Revival, I think. Training for Global Revival. That's even bigger. And the reason that's important is, number one, you've got almost everybody in churches lost. You know why? Because to them, they've never heard, or to them, there's no such thing as training for revival, global revival, because you can't train for it. It's so God, it's so spontaneous. It's so just God doing, everything that he does, and sovereign, so sovereign. I hear that, that revival is a sovereign work of God. Of course it is. It has to be, of course. But if you're not prepared for the sovereign work of God in any way, and you're still over here or there in your mind and pushing things that are off in a personal agenda, then you're not going to be ready for it. So we need to train ourselves to be open to what God's going to do, and realize we all have things in us that are in the way. And in any other time in history, we might not even be talking about it. It might not matter, of things that are in the way. We might be middle of the road Christians, lukewarm. We're good people. We go to church. We watch what movies we watch. We try to not cuss. We try to be fair in our marriage and relate. All those things. We're just good old people, kind of Ned Flanders on The Simpsons. He's just a good guy, a hoodly doodly doo, and all that stuff, seeing all the good everywhere. Okay, but that's not good enough, because we need to see what is in the way of us really having a global revival. And it's because nobody's trained, and we got to know we can be trained. And the training is I want to get everything out of the way that would stop the Spirit and get in the way. Because when you're in a revival move of God, and I will know this part, a real move of God, then uh, you have no time to think about I shouldn't think like that. I shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have, oh, I sure am a big baby. I know I should die to myself. But man, when you're in the thick of the move of God, you better already have all those things settled. You don't have time to do it. The Spirit of God's moving quickly. And that's a lesson. Training in revival is speed. The speed. It's the number one thing I think is stopping revival is the speed we want to go. Everybody wants to go slow speed gospel, slow speed everything. Now, boy, one of the biggest, hardest things I've ever do is getting up to speed with the speed of the Holy Spirit moving, and angelic beings moving. I guess we've watched too many cartoons and angels just sort of float by. And I've seen demonic angels. I've seen demonic spirits and angels. And when they're demonic spirits that kind of look like angels, but they're demonic spirits. Yeah, sometimes they do because they don't have any speed, right? Not like ours. But when you see the power of God in the air, it is powerful, moving, generating, like the electricity's been turned on in the heavenlies. And we got to learn the speed. We got to train ourselves. So you can't wait to get in the thick of it between the Holy Spirit and the battling of evil spirits and personal agendas. You can't wait for that because you'll fold and you'll not make it. And many, many moves of God don't do that. They have a 12-week revival. Well, that'd be a long time in today's, but back when they were happening, when I was involved, you'd have a week's worth and then 2 weeks and 12 weeks, and then they'd shut down. It's because people weren't trained and they went back to their old ways, or they began to fight, or they began to want to spend their Friday nights going to the movies. Well, you can train yourself to not want that anymore, but you've got to be trained. So that's where we are as far as people like us is wanting to be trained, getting rid of the foolishness. If I were to say anything about it, I'd say no pastor who wants to be part of a culture shift, Renaissance revival should have to go deal with babies, children, whining baby. I want my way. I know what I'm doing. I'm hurt. I'm offended. I'm crying all the time. Somebody pick me up and hold me. It'll never happen with those kind of people. And that's what we have everywhere. So the only hope for it is you got to decide that's not going to be me. Not now. If I want to be a crybaby and a whiner and a complainer, maybe in the future. Can't do it. That's why God's so much against complainers, because you can't serve God and complain at the same time. You just got to go, die to self, empty it. Nothing matters except the kingdom of God and this culture shift. And a lot of people would say that's too narrow. It's hard. Oh, he doesn't love people. He's not thinking about our feelings. Yes, I am, because we're going to save our country. We're going to save our country, our schools, our nation, and preserve America so that you can have some feelings, have some music and feelings, and still go to the movies 20 years from now. If you're young, still want to go and have some, stuff like that. We're not trying to knock that stuff out. We're trying to get people who stand for the right things and are trained in a Renaissance revival, global revival. People do not want to change for something small. We got to have something big to offer. And a big God is a big, but how do you get to that big God? You become small. We got to become small. We got to quit complaining. We got to quit being the babies of the church or the babies of the family or the babies, in our work. Quit being the big baby, all about you. I need attention all the time. Somebody pick me up and hold me. Come on. You got to get over that. And everybody, we can't run a church on people like that, and you can't run a revival. So you need to be trained. And right now you should be in training, because when it sweeps through, which it could, when it sweeps through at a speed of angelic power, there's not time for you to run and say, well, I need to go to therapy and get better. And I know I need to repent. You need to repent now. Why, what? It's too late. And the leaders and the powerhouses and the voices, they'll already be ready in place because they've trained. and set themselves apart for God's use only and for a massive culture shift. If you want to save it for your kids, maybe if you're young enough for yourself, me, what do you think I got on my mind? My kids, my grandkids, my family. I'm trying to save America for them. I'm not doing it for me. I don't have an agenda. I'm not against some group and against that group. I just see things that are destructive and will hurt us. And we need to be told they'll hurt us rather than they're necessarily wrong. They might be wrong, might be sin, but that's not the point of telling people about sin. Sin hurts people, right? And robs us of life. And we don't want you to be robbed of life. We're needing a culture shift. So time to get trained. Tonight at 7 o'clock, I will be talking about discipleship and revival training. No, revival training. I'll review discipleship, revival lifestyle. Yeah, I'll review it. And tonight is dominion. And you could come in. I'll ask this question and you can answer it when you get there. How do you know you don't have a demon, or how do you know you do? How do you know you have a demon? I'll answer that question, make it real clear right tonight at 7. We'll try to start on time this time. I missed it last week because everything's going on. Appreciate all your comments. I'm reading them now. Thank you, Kenda and Paula and Thomas, all these people, Judah, all of them are reading up the list. Thank you. Keep supporting, keep believing, keep praying for all the assets we need, spiritual, physical, to pull this thing off. We're at the baby steps, but I'm going to stay at it and feel that there's people that want to hear this, that would like to get involved, that can help us move it forward in our nation. All right. Thanks, everybody. Till next time.